The crying didn't belong in a house this quiet. At exactly 11:47 p.m., when the Millionaire CEO was reviewing a billion-rupee merger alone in his glass office, a small, broken sob drifted up from the servants' quarters below. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it stopped his hand mid-signature. What he did next would change the lives inside that mansion forever, and expose a truth no amount of money had ever fixed. Adrian Vale had built his empire on discipline. Nothing distracted him. Not the late nights. Not the failed relationships. Not even the loneliness that echoed through his 20-room mansion every evening. He believed emotions were inefficiencies, until that night. The sound came again. A child's cry. Thin. Tired. As if the tears had been falling for a long time. Adrian frowned. His mansion was immaculate, silent, controlled. He paid people well to ensure that. He stood up, irritated at first, convincing himself it was none of his concern. Yet his feet moved on their own, carrying him down the marble staircase, past framed awards, past portraits of success that suddenly felt hollow. The servants' quarters were small, tucked away like an afterthought. The light in one room was on. From inside came the sound of sniffles and a woman's hushed voice trying, and failing, to comfort someone. Adrian knocked once softly. The door opened to reveal Maria, his longtime maid. Her eyes widened in fear. "Sir, I'm sorry if we disturbed you." Behind her, on a thin mattress, sat her daughter Lily. 3 years old. Red-eyed. Clutching the arm of a stuffed rabbit whose head was hanging by a few loose threads. "She won't stop crying," Maria said quickly, ashamed. "Her toy, it broke. It was all she had from her father." Adrian looked at the toy. Something about it struck him deeper than he expected. It wasn't just broken. It was loved, patched, faded, held together by care instead of money. Lily looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. "He promised it wouldn't break," she whispered. That sentence hit Adrian like a blow to the chest. Because someone had once promised him the same thing, long ago, before his own childhood broke apart. "I'll buy her 100 toys," Adrian said automatically, reaching for his wallet. Lily shook her head. "I want this one." Silence filled the room. Maria lowered her gaze, embarrassed. "I'll try to fix it, sir." Adrian stood there longer than necessary. Something inside him resisted walking away. For the first time in years, money felt useless. "Give me the toy," he said quietly. Maria hesitated. "Sir? Please." He took the rabbit gently, as if it were fragile in a way no balance sheet ever was. "I'll return it tomorrow." The maid watched in disbelief as the most powerful man she knew walked away holding a broken stuffed toy instead of a phone or briefcase. Upstairs, Adrian cancelled his meetings for the next day. The household staff whispered through the night. The CEO had taken a child's toy. No one slept. Adrian didn't sleep either. He sat at his desk with the rabbit in his hands, turning it over, noticing the careful stitches Maria had tried to make before they failed. His mind wandered to memories he had buried, his mother sewing buttons late at night, promising things would be okay even when they weren't. At dawn, Adrian drove himself to a small, nearly forgotten shop across town. No assistance. No security detail. Just him and a quiet sense of urgency he didn't understand. The shop owner, an elderly man with trembling hands, examined the rabbit. "This isn't just a toy," he said. "This is comfort. It needs patience. Can you fix it?" Adrian asked. "Yes," the man smiled. "But it will take time. Take all the time you need." By evening, Adrian returned with the rabbit restored, not new, not replaced, but healed. The stitches were visible, stronger than before. When he handed it back to Lily, she stared in silence. Then she hugged it tightly and broke into a smile so pure, it made Maria cover her mouth to stop herself from crying. "You fixed him," Lily said. No, Adrian replied softly. You did. You never gave up on him. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Adrian began noticing things he had ignored for years. How Maria skipped meals. How the staff worked 2 jobs. How loyalty was quietly rewarded with exhaustion instead of dignity. Within weeks, changes swept through the house and the company. Fair wages. Education funds for employees' children. Health coverage. Respect that wasn't written in contracts but shown in actions. The board was furious. You're running a business, not a charity, they argued. Adrian listened calmly. Then he slid the repaired rabbit onto the conference table. This, he said, is why my company exists. Not to break people and replace them, but to repair what matters. News spread. Investors doubted him. Then productivity soared. Loyalty deepened. The company thrived in ways numbers alone couldn't explain. One night, months later, Adrian passed the servants' quarters again. No crying this time. Just laughter. He paused, realizing something profound. The smallest sound had awakened the largest change in his life. And for the first time, the mansion didn't feel empty. The laughter faded as Adrian walked away, but its echoes stayed with him longer than any boardroom applause ever had. The next morning, reality struck back. The board called an emergency meeting. Adrian sat at the long walnut table, sunlight reflecting off the city skyline behind him. Faces around him were stiff, unreadable. Men and women who measured life in margins and percentages stared at him like he had become a liability. You've increased operational costs by 30% in 3 months, one director said coldly. Employee funds, education grants, housing allowances, this is not sustainable, another added. This emotional decision-making will destroy shareholder confidence. Adrian listened without interruption. When they finished, he stood up, not angry, not defensive, just calm. Do you know why our turnover rate dropped to 0? He asked. Silence. Do you know why productivity is at its highest in 10 years? More silence. They stay, Adrian continued, because for the first time, they feel seen. A man scoffed. Seen doesn't pay dividends. Adrian smiled faintly. Neither does fear. Not forever. The board voted against him that day. By evening, news broke across financial channels. Vail Industries CEO faces internal revolt over emotional leadership. The staff heard the rumors before dinner. Maria stood in the kitchen, hands shaking. Sir, is it because of us? Adrian looked at her, truly looked at her, and shook his head. No. It's because of who they've forgotten they work for. But if you lose everything, she whispered. I won't, he said gently. And even if I do, I'll still be able to look at myself. That night, Lily padded into the hallway clutching her rabbit. Mr. Adrian, she asked softly, are you sad? He knelt to her level. A little. She placed the rabbit in his hands. You can borrow him. He helps when things break. Something in Adrian's chest cracked open. What the board didn't expect was unity. Employees across departments began sharing stories online. How Adrian had paid medical bills quietly. How he had listened. How he had changed lives without cameras. Hashtags trended. Investors noticed. A major client refused to pull out. Then another stayed. Then more followed. Your people believe in you, one investor said during a late-night call. That kind of loyalty can't be bought. The board reconvened. This time, the tone was different. Adrian didn't gloat. He didn't threaten. He simply slid a framed photo onto the table, Lily holding her repaired rabbit, smiling. This, he said, is the future workforce you claim to care about. By unanimous vote, Adrian retained control. But victory didn't feel like triumph. It felt like responsibility. Years passed. The mansion no longer felt like a museum of success. It felt alive. Children visited on weekends. Staff ate together. The walls heard laughter more than silence. Lily grew. On her first day of school, Adrian walked her to the gate. Maria watched from a distance, tears streaming down her face. "Promise you'll come back," Lily said, gripping his hand. "I promise," Adrian replied. And he kept that promise, every year, every milestone. On Lily's graduation day, she stood on stage and scanned the crowd until her eyes found him. Her speech was short. "When I was 3, my world broke," she said. "A man who didn't have to care, chose to. He taught me that kindness repairs more than toys, it repairs people." The audience stood. Adrian remained seated, tears quietly falling. Late one evening, Adrian walked past the old servants' quarters, now renovated into family housing. He heard a sound. Not crying. Not laughter. Just peace. He realized then, the moment that shocked the household wasn't when he fixed a toy. It was when he listened. Because sometimes, the smallest broken thing reveals the greatest truth. That real leadership begins where compassion refuses to look away.